In 1969, it cost $358 to go to college for a whole year. Adjust that for inflation, and today it's 5 times more to go to college. Now, you may be wondering if you should go to college and if it's a good idea or not. And given the $1.8 trillion of student loans and debt that's owed in the United States, it's very important to consider whether college is the right idea for you. First up, we're going to look at the cost of college. So we're going to break down what your tuition money actually goes on. And according to the data from the National Center of Education Statistics, one of the biggest chunks is around 35 to 50%, which is wages. That's professors, administrators, IT, maintenance, all that sort of thing, anyone who needs to be paid for their work. And while it makes sense at surface value, a professor can earn around $90,000 a year, while the university presidents can make over $1 million. In fact, in some schools, administrative costs are higher than teaching-related costs over the past 2 decades. And the thing is, when tuition was cheaper, that wasn't the case. And then there's marketing. Yes, universities do actually market themselves, believe it or not. It was kind of crazy to me when I found this out, but lots of schools spend tens of millions every year just to get your attention. You might see universities on billboards, you might see them on pamphlets. Lots of them spend money on marketing at secondary schools to try and pick you up at a younger age. If you're in America, you may call them high schools. And you might even see universities in social media ads. I see lots and lots of universities advertising on my phone on Instagram. Even the big universities, you might see them on television, which is very expensive. But why do they need to spend so much on marketing in the first place? Because higher rankings and more applicant pools means more money and prestige for universities. Now, in the olden days, that didn't used to be a problem because there was so much value in going to college and people would just go without needing to be sold on it. But these days, because it's so much more expensive, the universities need to make an effort to try and convince you to go. More students means there's more selectivity for the colleges, which means they can pick the best performing students and boost rankings. Higher rankings means that the donors will give the universities even more money, which means they'll make more money, and in addition to tuition, will make universities very, very rich. There's something even more important to consider though, and that's the opportunity cost of college, which is the cost of what you could have if you didn't go. This is the money you could have earned by going straight into work, starting a business, learning a trade instead of sitting in a lecture hall for 4 years being bored. Say you skip college and take a job. It pays $40,000 a year, and over the 4 years, that's $160,000 you'd earn while your friends are $200,000 in debt. So you don't have to think about the $200,000 cost. It's more of a $350,000 opportunity cost because you could have earned money in that time and you didn't. College isn't all bad though, so we also need to consider what could be good from it. And that's the degree. The main thing about college is getting the golden ticket because you can go on your resume or CV, and for many jobs having a degree is a basic requirement and you can't have it without it, even if it's not used every single day in the office. The question is though, do employers want the degree? In a world of self-learning, AI tools, online courses, the degree is starting to lose its value as it did many years ago. Then there's the education itself. Lectures, essays, theory, lots of it hasn't changed, and that's a bad thing. Some of it is useful, but to be honest, how much of your degree actually gets used in your job? Whereas many years ago, you'd be learning about things you didn't know, and you could apply them in the real world and provide value. Most graduates don't leave college ready for a job, they just leave with debt. Meanwhile, people who skip college are out building businesses, coding, editing, learning by doing, like an apprenticeship. But college isn't just about education. Some people would argue it's the experience. The parties, the friendships that you could meet your best friend for life in college, and you wouldn't have if you didn't go. Other things to consider is the independence. It might be the first time for lots of people being far away from home or just being away from your parents, and that's valuable to some people. For many, it's their first taste of being an adult, and that has value. It can shape people and make them better. Is all of this growth worth $50,000 to $80,000 a year? Because you can travel the world, you can take risks, you can build a startup, whatever you want to do. You can teach yourself more about the world for far less money. Here's what you don't get from most colleges: real-world skills, financial literacy, a guarantee of employment, because once you graduate, no one's promising you a job unless you're in a special program, which is highly unlikely. One of the biggest things students graduate with isn't knowledge, it's just debt, and that sticks with you long after all of the experiences, because debt can take decades to pay off depending on how large it is, and especially depending on interest. Next, we're going to talk about why college isn't that bad and some of the good things that you might get from it. First of all, you might be interested in an industry where college is non-negotiable. Say you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Some of these typical college jobs, you have to get a degree, there's no alternative. If I wanted to go and be a neurosurgeon, I'd have to go to medical school, otherwise I couldn't do it. And these careers are also heavily regulated. In most countries, you legally can't practice these things without a degree from an accredited university. And that's a good thing because they need to be safe for everyone. The return on investment can actually be quite solid as well. A medical degree may cost something like $200,000, but an average physician earns well over $200,000 a year. So in the long run, it's actually worth it. For some people, it's a no-brainer. Plus, there's the personal fulfillment. If you're into medicine or law, the degree isn't a transaction, it's more of a career path that provides you with entertainment and personal value. They open doors to stable, high-paying jobs, and in many cases they do it relatively quickly, especially compared to not going to college. But obviously there's bad things about college, so we're going to talk about why it might not be so good. There are entire industries out there thriving on a no-college system. Creators, such as people on social media, actors, people doing things that just don't require college skills. They're building brands from their bedrooms. You don't need to go to college for that. Entrepreneurs are scaling businesses with no formal training. Freelancers, developers, and coders, people are landing jobs using their projects and portfolios, not their diplomas, because employers are interested in what you can do, not what you have done before. Because at the end of the day, they want you to do well for them. None of these people needed a college degree, and it doesn't make you any of these things, it doesn't make you creative, and it doesn't teach you the valuable stuff that you might want to know. Even the employers today care more about what you can do than where you study. In the world where you're visible, provable, and buildable outside the system has less power. Going to college isn't as good as it once was. So maybe you could ask the question, what can you do without college? And if that list is the same as the list of what you can do with going to college, maybe it's not right for you. That's something for you to decide. There's also additional costs with going to college, such as non-financial costs. Lots of people don't talk about the burnout and the depression of going to college. In the United States, more than 60% of college students report struggling with their mental health. There's lots of pressure to perform well, the fear of falling behind. There's also a crushing feeling of debt stacking up while you're barely holding it together. And society calls this the best years of your life, which can often pressure young people into forcing themselves to enjoy their time rather than doing what they like to do. You've got to also think about the fact that it's 4 years of lectures, exams, late nights, while others are starting businesses, gaining experience and earning a lot of money. And this can take a big toll on people. College isn't just costing you money, it's also time. Often courses that are 4+ years are very valuable years, and some people overlook that. You've also got to add additional costs that aren't just the tuition. This can be housing, transportation. Getting to college can be very expensive for some people. Textbooks are unregulated and extortionate. Some people overcharge like crazy for these things. Student loan interest, so above the tuition, the interest can stack up and charge you a lot more if you take a long time to pay it off, which is very dangerous. And on top of all this, cost of living is really expensive. Just buying food, it can be very expensive when you add up over 4 years. So if your course is $200,000, it might look more like $250,000 once you're done with everything, maybe even more. A college grad might start earning at 22, 23 years old, but with a pile of debt and 5+ years before they break even on their money, that can look a bit questionable. Meanwhile, someone who skipped college at 18 and started earning money and doing meaningful things with their life, like learning skills that were valuable, that income that they made might compound and once invested could provide much more financial value to them than going to college. And let's not ignore what the debt actually does to people. Debt can delay you buying a home, starting a family. Taking career risks could be of great benefit to some people, and if you have loads of debt, you can't do that. Even feeling free to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, and where you are, freedom to travel, stuff like that. So should you go to college? Well, I think you should go to college if you're doing a very academic style subject, medicine, law, stuff like that, where you have to go. And there's a lot of meaning provided, you'll see a lot of value out of that. If the return on investment is there for you, go do it, have a great time. If you want to be a pilot, you don't need to go to college. There's programs, there's flight schools that are separate from college, apprenticeships for other jobs. All of these things can save you a lot of money. So is it worth the $200,000+? It depends is the final answer, and it's also 3 years of your life you'll never get back, and some could argue that the time is more valuable than the money.